everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It has been a while since I've done a talking video, so I thought it would be fun to do a Q&A and to touch base with everyone and answer some of the questions that I've got mostly on Facebook and Instagram. One of the questions I got from a few people is how are things going with my silicone tail? Now, if you've been following me on Instagram, this has been a bit of a journey. I bought a secondhand silicone tail last year, the year before, I can't quite remember, a while ago. That was originally made by Mermaid on Instagram. I bought it secondhand from someone else. It showed up and it had a lot of damage and I tried my best to fix it. It sort of worked, but ultimately it was a secondhand tail and the size was not quite right. There was a few problems, but I absolutely love this tail to bits and I still posted it. I love wearing it even though people were really mean about it on TikTok. And then Mermaid, the creator, actually reached out to me and said that if I could pay for shipping and a new monofin, that he would resize it, he'd fix the monofin, and I would get basically a new custom tail. That's where I was sitting for months. I was waiting for him to finish his queue and to get up to my tail. I was also going to, I'd paid for a new top to match it as well. And he messaged me actually just the other day to say the tail is basically irreparable. The silicone that he used was not a super long lasting one, and it basically was starting to deteriorate. There was more tears. It was just going to be too hard to try and fix. But he did offer to make me a new tail from scratch using the money that I paid for the top, and I'd paid for a dorsal fin as well. So he said that he was very generously going to make me a new tail from scratch that would fit my measurements perfectly. So that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment. Still working out some of the logistics. I still really want a dorsal fin on it, so I'm going to see if I can pay a little bit extra for that. But yeah, so starting to make progress. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that by next summer I will have my silicone tail back because I love it so much and I can't wait to make more like H2O videos about it because it's very cool and he does an amazing job of making H2O replica tails. But yeah, that's where I'm standing with my silicone tail at the moment. Excuse me while I read some of these from my phone because my memory's not so good. Galaxy of Ash on Instagram asked, what is your favorite water-based folk creature and would your Mersona be friends with it? My favorite water-based folk creature is the hippocampus, the water horse, I believe from Greek mythology, also randomly in like Frozen 2, I think the water horse that Elsa rides into the distance. I have loved them ever since I saw the original Percy Jackson Sea of Monsters movie, I think. I fell in love with the water horse, the hippocampus, beautiful horse on top, mermaid tail on the bottom. Absolutely my Mersona would be friends with it because my Mersona is just me. I don't really put on a character. My goal is to eventually get a massive hippocampus tattoo either on my shoulder or my thigh, but tattoos are expensive and I have other things to deal with first, but maybe one day. My friend PixXPeter on Instagram asked two questions. He asked, what's your favourite part of mermaiding and how different are the pods between Tasmania and Queensland? So to answer the first one, my favourite part of mermaiding would have to be just being in the water. I love swimming, I find it so calming. I have a chronic pain disability as well, so being in the water is really helpful for my pain. I love just floating, I love looking underwater, it calms me and I just have so much fun every time I swim. His other question, what's the difference between Tasmanian and Queensland pods? So for those who don't know, I am originally from Tasmania, but I lived in Queensland for a couple years and then I moved back to Tasmania last year. The pods are sort of similar, I would say. The Queensland pod has a lot more members in the Facebook group, but there's not that many that are that active. I went to one really big pod meet that was like 15 people. That was really cool, but aside from that, they're fairly similar. They're both fairly small pods. Pods in Australia just generally are pretty small unless you're in like Shell Harbour. But yeah, I mean, ultimately my first mermaid friends were in Tasmania, so I love them so much more. I just didn't get to know the Queensland Mers very much, except for my friend Taylor, love her. But yeah, they're fairly similar. Another friend of mine and fellow Tasmanian pod member Lauren asked, can you talk about your interactions with children while on beach swims? I can, it's gonna be short. I'm not a performer, I'm a hobby mermaid. I swim because I like doing it, I like wearing costumes and I love mermaid tails, but I'm not a children's performer. I've had a few experiences with kids on beaches. I tend to avoid them because I don't really know how to talk to kids, and I don't want to ruin the magic for them even though like I'm not performing, so I just kind of try to stay out of their way. But I did have one really nice moment when I was like 16, I think, and I was swimming on a holiday with my mom and these two little girls came up and they were so convinced that I was Ariel, and they started bringing me like handfuls of shells and it was just really cute. I still have the shells somewhere like in a little bag in my memory box because they were just really lovely. Another pod member of mine, Courtney, asked, how do I prepare for a photo shoot Do you have any tips with filming with a GoPro? And who would you collab with if you could pick anyone out there, mer or creator? So I prepare for a photo shoot. I normally do my hair and makeup. I lock in my photographer, which is normally just like my best friend because they take really good photos. And we pick out a location. Basically, I kind of just get there and figure it out. Sometimes I might practice poses like in the mirror, but I'm kind of just a roll with it kind of person. Sometimes we'll even just drive around a few places and be like, that looks like a cool place to take photos, and we go there. A few tips with filming with the GoPro. Honestly, the GoPros are pretty good on their standard settings. I have started playing around with mine. I upgraded it to like the 4K filming, which makes the files massive, which is a pain, but they look so much better for YouTube and uploading and things. So I'm going to stick with that as long as my computer can handle it. But yeah, if you can get a GoPro that has the front screen, enable that because it can be really handy if you're doing like selfie stuff. You can see on the front if you're in frame or not. And actually, even if someone else is filming you and you can see the little screen underwater, then you know that you're sort of like going in the right direction. But it's just a lot of practice. GoPro cameras are very small, so it can be hard to get used to like the field of view that they have because it's quite a big field of view. But play around with settings, just practice. If you have a pool or something you can go to and just practice taking videos, you'll start to get used to like how far you can be away from the camera and still be in shot, that sort of thing. And if you're filming your friends, then you get used to, you know, how it feels to actually film people as well. And if I could pick anyone to collab with, I don't really know. I've always wanted to do a collab with Mermaid Faith. We've been friends for years, and like we've talked about collabing like 3 or 4 times, and it just never seems to happen. It's hard with international time zones and things like that. She's very busy, I'm very busy. But yeah, I would love to eventually do a collab with Mermaid Faith. I got a couple of questions from a few different people on sort of beginner mermaid questions. I'll answer a couple of them today, but I am actually planning on doing a Mermaiding 101 3-part series. So talking about like literally the start of mermaiding, how you get into it, how you find a tail, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to see that Mermaiding 101 series, let me know. I'm hoping to get it done soon. So I'm sorry I will miss a few questions today that I think will be better answered in long form in a different video, but I will answer still a couple today. I got one about how do I clean my tails and what's the best way to clean them. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions. Most tails will come with a care sheet that'll tell you how to dry them, how to wash them, can you put them in the washing machine, what detergent to use, etc. I don't like to put my tails in the washing machine personally because I'm a bit anxious. I normally just rinse them out either in the bathtub, the shower, with a garden hose, make sure that all the salt water or chlorine is out, and then I just lay them flat to dry. Generally, you don't want to hang a fabric tail up to dry because when it's wet, it gets really heavy and it can stretch and it can warp the fabric. So that's generally my advice, but always check with each tail's manufacturer. You can always send them an email normally to ask if you're unsure as well. Another quick one that I will touch on, but I will go into more depth in the 101 series, is it okay to buy a tail from somewhere like Amazon, Wish, AliExpress, that sort of thing? My blanket answer is no. If it doesn't have a brand name on it, I just wouldn't recommend buying it. There's so many problems with knockoff tails and dangerous tails out there that you can buy for really cheap, and I understand why it is so enticing for people who maybe are younger or don't have a lot of income, but you don't want to risk your safety to save a few dollars. Ultimately, mermaiding is a hobby, it is a choice. A mermaid tail is not a necessity, and it can really make such a difference to your health and your experience if you just save up a little bit more. So in my Mermaiding 101 series, I will go through cheap brands that are reliable and safe, places like Fin Fun and Suntails, for good beginner starting tails. But please don't buy any tails off AliExpress and Shein and Amazon, because a lot of them have stolen art and a lot of them come with really flimsy monofins that can break while you're swimming and could ultimately be a really dangerous health risk. Another pod member, most of these questions came from my pod members this time, so thanks guys for supporting my videos. But another pod member, Emily, she asked, where can I swim with a tail and what are the age restrictions regarding children, etc. Again, this is something I'll go into more depth, but for a quick answer, where can you swim with a tail? If it's a pool, you need to ask for permission. It can be really hard to find pools that will let you swim in a tail, but if you have a local pod in your area, reach out to them, join up into their Facebook group, that sort of thing, and hopefully there'll be some more experienced mers around that can tell you where you can swim. You can, of course, swim in the ocean. You just need to be safe. Always take a buddy with you. Safety protocols, everything. But yeah, for pools, you just need to ask for permission. You might have a friend with a pool. That's always a good place to swim. And just keep in mind things like depth and the type of pool kind of lining, because sometimes if they're sort of gravelly, it can really damage a tail. There is no technical age restriction to swimming with a mermaid tail. I always just recommend that you are a strong swimmer and that you can swim unassisted for, you know, at least 50 meters. I generally think that probably under 10s shouldn't have mermaid tails, or at least they shouldn't be swimming in the ocean, because it can be really hard to get out of something like a rip, especially if you're in a tail. But if you have parental supervision and you are being safe, I honestly don't think that there needs to be an age limit to tails. You just need to be doing the right thing. Last little group of questions is from another pod member, Ali. She has asked me, do I prefer to swim in the ocean or the pool, and why? And do I prefer fabric, silicone, or hybrid tails? And what is the #1 place I would swim as a mermaid? I personally prefer to swim in the ocean. I love that it's open, I love that it can be deep, I love seeing things. You can see fish and kelp and all sorts of fun. I saw a stingray a couple times, that was really cool. So definitely I prefer the ocean. It's also better on my eyes. Chlorine is awful for my eyes. So definitely always pick the ocean when I can. Living in Tasmania, the ocean's only swimmable from like September to March generally, which is a shame. It just gets way too cold. Even in the middle of the summer here, it's only like 18-19 degrees in the water, but definitely the ocean is my pick. As for my preference between fabric, silicone, or hybrid, I actually love all of them for different reasons. Probably for every day, fabric is great. It's so easy, it's light, it's fun, you can get so many different colors and patterns and things, and it doesn't break the bank the way that silicone tails can. I do love my silicone tails so much, but it is much more of a pain to get into, so silicone's probably like my least favorite, but they do look so pretty, so I do love them anyway. And hybrid tails, I love. I don't have a hybrid tail anymore, but I used to have a mythic tail way back in the day. I think I was one of the first people in Australia to get a mythic tail from Finfolk, and I love that tail to bits, and ultimately it didn't end up fitting me. Anyway, it's long gone now, but I love that tail because you got the beauty of the silicone fluke and the fins, with the ease of having a fabric body with a zipper. It was so much easier to get into, but it still was such a stunning tail. I'm so sad that they discontinued them. And the last one, where would I swim if I could pick one place to swim as a mermaid? I don't know exactly. Somewhere tropical. I've never swum in a tail somewhere tropical. I've been on a cruise once to like Vanuatu, and I went swimming there, but I didn't take a tail. So somewhere like Vanuatu, Fiji, Hawaii, somewhere like that, really classic and tropical and beautiful. I would love to go see like the Great Barrier Reef or something in a tail. I think that would be so much fun. I always get so surprised when I swim in water that's more than like 18 degrees. So yeah, somewhere like that would probably be my pick. That's all that I have time for today. Thank you so much to everyone who asked questions. I thought this would just be a bit of fun to touch base with everyone. I want to do more speaking videos like this, so if there's any other types of videos you want to see, or if you want to see my Mermaiding 101 series, let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys, and hopefully I will have more videos up soon. Thanks for watching.